Well, thank you everyone who is here. I am Marcy Reed with the Architects Foundation, and we're so happy to be hosting this event today with our friends from Codaworx. The Architects Foundation is the philanthropic partner of the American Institute of Architects, and our mission is to attract, inspire, and invest in the next generation design community to have positive impact in the world. Codaworx is the hub of the commissioned art economy and the premier resources for teams to find qualified artists, teams, subcontractors to create commissioned artworks. And these internationally acclaimed CODAawards, one of which we're going to be introduced to today, celebrate the projects that most successfully integrate commissioned art into interior, architectural, and public spaces. Normally, the CODAawards would be gracing the gallery walls of our home at the historic Octagon in Washington, D.C., but because of some maintenance issues we undertook during the pandemic, the museum is still closed, and we're so excited to be hosting this online again because we are reaching people from so many different places. So welcome, welcome. I'm going to turn things over to our president, Stephen Lewis, who is in Los Angeles with ZGF. He is a fellow in the American Institute of Architects as well as the National Organization of Minority Architects. And Stephen is going to get us started.
Thank you, Marcy, and welcome to all of you. You're in for a real treat today. I'm pleased to serve as the current president of the Architects Foundation. And as Marcy mentioned, our mission is to attract, inspire, and invest in the next generation design community with an emphasis on diversity and inclusion. We're also stewards of a specific place of inspiration in Washington, D.C., the historic Octagon, where we have exhibited the CODAaward since 2016. So this is not new for us. But again, this format allows for this wonderful work to reach a greater, broader audience. So, we hope that today's panel discussion will lead to strategies for uplifting the I Was Here project to reshape the American Commemorative Landscape, simultaneously creating memorials and a visual of the seminal role enslaved Africans played in the foundation of American wealth and power, something that's getting a lot of exposure, the histories through programs like Eyes on the Prize and other avenues that are really sort of proliferating the airwaves, are opportunities for all of us, even those of us who are Black and have had that lived experience, to really learn about these things that, as you will hear us talk about in reference, have been parallel histories hidden in plain sight. We're also glad to launch this conversation. I Was Here is so inspirational and provocative. This team has really created something special. We hope today's panel discussion will lead to, to these strategies to really allow this message to be carried by you all with some real excitement. Moderating today's session is Marshall Fields, who I've gotten to meet and know a little bit through our preparation for today. And Marshall is a wonderful, wonderful human being, and he will be an incredible moderator for this great group of panelists who have assembled. Marshall spent the last 20 years working in learning and development. His background includes instructional design, communication brokerage, work as a managing columnist, a magazine columnist rather, a podcast host, and community liaison for I Was Here. He's a graduate of Spencerian College with a degree in electrical engineering. He holds certifications from the ASTD, Blended Learning, Langevin, Curriculum Development and Design, and Professional Life Coaching certification from Transformational Academy. Believing that communication is the #1 vehicle to end systemic racism, his mantra is, quote, "We can change your world by changing how you talk to it," unquote. It is this belief that drives all of his engagements, including the development of a self-paced online anti-racism course. Now, you all know I was reading that, right? So you can't be mad because that was a mouthful and a whole lot. But in my own words, I'd just like to say, in this moment of racial reckoning or awakening that we find ourselves in, the I Was Here project brings into focus a people whose history has literally been hidden in plain sight. If these walls could talk, what would they tell us? Well, we're about to find out, because these walls are definitely talking to us. So with that, I'd just like to turn it over to our moderator, Marshall Fields.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I appreciate that introduction. And still, there's somehow enough room for everyone else in here with my head. as it's full. I appreciate that. But moreover, we as a team want to thank Codaworx and the Architects Foundation. In this presentation, we will take you through the history of this project, what we're doing now and what's to come. The mission of this project is to reshape the American commemorative landscape, as Stephen said earlier. And we see architects as natural partners. To repair the wound that enslavement created, it will take all of us.
I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathe in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers.
Where do I begin? How do I find my way home? How do I understand a language I have never been taught? Battered and bruised, but never broken. Jesus and his crown of thorns to bear the sins of man. For the Spirit is real and it dwells within me. I have no fear of you ever leaving me. Lord, what will you have me do? I stand here today to bless the ground that my ancestors stood on. Like sheep to the slaughter, their blood, sweat, and tears, the ground where they stood and cried, I stand in this brokenness. I am calling your name.
Hello, I'm Daniel Ware, 2021 president of AIA Kentucky and principal architect at EOP Architects in Lexington, Kentucky. I've been working with the I Was Here project as an architect, looking critically into how the project is installed and working with our augmented reality team. The opportunity to create a visual for invisible history is one that is uniquely possible for architects and designers. In historic renovation or new construction, the integration of the Ancestor spirit portraits tells the story of the foundation of wealth in America. The question we pose for you today, as we share the story of the I Was Here project, is how can we, as architects and designers, help to create a vision for a shared citizenship? How can we, as architects and designers, create a vision for a shared citizenship? There is a continuous shift in our industry to allow our built environment to reinforce the positive effects of nature, natural materials, and natural light, and how those materials and natural light, how they affect our mental health and spirit. These spirit images present an experience that is tied to the creation of buildings and is also tied to one's perception of our environment. These spirit images create memorials, they act as guardians, they allow for moments of reflection and can start conversations. How these images are printed, what they're printed on, how they are installed, how music is incorporated into the space to act simultaneously with these images are all very important to the experience of this project. As architects and designers, this poses an interesting challenge. The project inherently is about reshaping the American commemorative landscape. To translate that into an architectural language requires transparency, the use of rich color, visual texture, in creating a diaphanous image that calls to the spirits and the souls that are ever present in our built environment. Through augmented reality, the integration of these images and the music is more customizable to the space and to the exterior of buildings. Working to install permanent installations of these ancestor spirit images to attain equal effect opens a world of design possibilities. This project is about shaping the American commemorative landscape, and architects and designers' role is to physically realize these spirit images, to memorialize and honor the events that have shaped who we are and what our nation is at its core.
I'm Marjorie Guyon, artist on the I Was Here project. We've been on a journey that began in 2016, starting as a vision of an African mother and child. This project has slowly developed into a broad collaboration, which continues to grow. Today, we want to share with you the parts and pieces of a project to shift the spirit of our country.
And again, I'm Marshall Phillips, Community Liaison for I Was Here. The Ancestor Spirit portraits are a synthesis of 5 elements: photographic image, painting, geography, history, and poetic language. Embedded into each of the images are longitude and latitude from around the world, connecting viewers to the broader connections of the womb that enslavement created.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Michael Priestley, and I serve as the music director producer for the project. As a professional singer teacher, I provide a voice for the Ancestor Spirit portraits with the integration of spoken word, hymns, lullabies, and anthems. The soundscape for the I Was Here project is intended to inspire a connection to the humanity, to the power, the beauty, the wholeness, and the dignity of a people who were the people who are.
My name is Michael Baer. I'm the owner of Fusion Corp and Pivot, the 2 companies responsible for the augmented reality portion of this experience. Just a quick explanation. Most people are familiar with virtual reality. You have to have the headset and you're kind of tethered, and that's the experience that you can create. Augmented reality, on the other hand, uses your device through GPS, latitude, longitude. And AR actually allows us to scale the spirit portraits to larger than life images and landscapes. There's absolutely no limit to what we can accomplish, from historical views of buildings overlaid over current architecture, or physically placing virtual spirit figures wherever we desire.
The excitement of this project is the experience of this project once it's installed. This adds an important layer to how we experience our built environment. It's about calling out to the past to take stock in the reality that existed when our historic buildings were constructed. How we design spaces to include ancestor spirit images can enhance our understanding by inspiring us to learn more about the history of our built environment and what forces were at play and the souls that constructed these buildings. The slave trade in the US touched every nook and cranny of this country. Those stories in many cases are lost to history, but alive and well in the details and structure of these buildings that were built by enslaved and formerly enslaved people. The application and location of the ancestor spirit images has a profound impact on our pedestrian experience as we navigate our cities and our lives.
Some results of the project. Individuals have said, I feel safe. I am welcomed in this space. I can enter this space. You cannot force a genuine welcome, but you can feel it. You cannot change the past, but you can build a new visual memory of what a place means.
My studio is in the heart of downtown Lexington, Kentucky. It overlooks the largest auction block for the enslaved, west of the Alleghenies. The project began November 9th, 2016. I had spent a good part of the night before talking with my daughter about America. The next day, the daughter of another mother came up to my studio to talk about America. How could we shift the spirit of the country?
I've spent my life as an artist. I believe in the muscular and sacred power of art. As I listened to this daughter, I looked out the window over her shoulder. As clear as day, I had a vision of an African mother and child appearing and disappearing. I told her what I saw. She brought her little boy to the studio. The project began with a mother and child. That vision quickly became a broader, deeper, bigger portrait of the human family. There are so many stories we could tell you about the making of the project. Photographer Patrick Mitchell and I, the day before the photo shoot, trying to decide how we would make the women look timeless, how we came up with the idea of shawls, and how in the photo shoot, everyone ended up wearing a shawl, a protection from what we were asking them to conjure, a shelter. Contemporary African Americans became a living embodiment of those who had come before them. From this photo shoot were born 21 ancestor spirit portraits. Initially installed as translucent tapestries in windows of public spaces, they create a visual for an invisible history. Memorial, guardian, unnamed, unknown, powerful, and holy. Through longitude and latitude embodied into the images, the project is a geography and history lesson. But in the end, it is a spirit project, an iconography of beauty, dignity, and grace in historically significant public space. The project is a synthesis of what is known and what will never be known, what is lost forever. This combination acts to revoke a mythology created to keep a broken citizenship in place.
We say that this is a spirit project because the coincidences that continue to occur are impossible to explain in any other way. We're presenting to you today because of a partnership between Codaworx and the Architects Foundation. As you all know, the headquarters of the Architects Foundation is the Octagon Museum. The Octagon was built by the enslaved. The Architects Foundation are undertaking an effort to reveal parallel histories hidden in plain sight. Through the I Was Here project, the presence of the ancestor spirits are brought into the building. Michael, can you talk about how AR can be used on exterior space?
Yeah, with the technology we have available to the I Was Here project, we're able to use image recognition and AR, latitude, longitude paired with the GPS on a device through the application. We can literally cover entire buildings, which allow us to engage in exact locations of the historical events or buildings and tell a very significant story.
There's a stigma that the people who were enslaved were solely farmers and laborers. The truth is that many of those who were enslaved were sought because of their expert ability as builders and designers. This is the facade of the Octagon building in Washington, D.C. This was built by John Taylor II. Taylor built his house at the suggestion of George Washington. Taylor was a slave owner who owned hundreds of people, and 12 to 18 of those enslaved people worked here at the Octagon. The Taylor family wintered in this building from its completion in 1801 to 1815. And Mrs. Taylor lived here full-time following her husband's death in 1815 until her death in 1855. The architect was William Thornton. Has had a profound impact on our built environment. And I would encourage everyone with us today to learn more about the historic stock of buildings and how and when those buildings were built and who they were built by. This project calls to light these stories and this history. The presence of the ancestor spirits and the music bring with it an opportunity to reflect on the history that got us to this point today. This opens up the opportunity to design spaces that promote a shared citizenship. As people navigate these spaces that we design, we can inspire conversation between those who would have otherwise not engaged and provide spaces to be together safely, spaces to engage and experience our collective culture.
Shared citizenship between you and me and others.
The musical soundscape heard on the exterior spaces allows for this shared citizenship to become a reality. It brings power of music to the streets. Often we think of this music as only accessible in a concert hall or on the operatic stage. Through the AR experience, this changes this location and it makes the spirit that the music invokes more accessible.
And not to be lost even on the historical significance of latitude, longitude within this project, by using the AR wayfinding, we're quite literally able to direct people on a tour of sites and different landscapes from one location to the next, just leading people on a historical journey. But then once we bring in the visuals and the music and the history, we're able to virtually and emotionally touch all senses.
Hi, my name is Patrick Mitchell. I'm the photographer with I Was Here. And when I was approached for the project with the idea that ancestral spirit images would be surrounding the courthouse on Cheapside, where people were bought and sold, it was phenomenal. And I just knew it was going to be a healing to souls who were bought and sold, who lived through that trauma, and who know about it today.
I Was Here gives us an opportunity to share our history in an honest and poignant way, and to allow us to join with fellow citizens, our guests, even strangers, in a way that unites us through a shared citizenship.
We're working with a small history museum called the Dyckman Farmhouse in Inwood, New York City. Enslaved Africans worked the land and in the house. This is an aerial view of the Dyckman. It's verdant in an urban streetscape. Seen from above like this, when I first saw it, it looks like Eden. You can still feel the hands that work the land. We've designed an augmented reality walking tour along with an accompanying soundscape for the neighborhood of Inwood, creating a visual for this hidden history shown on a small scale who really built this country.
So the slide that you're looking at right now is an actual historical African burial ground. And with the simple image recognition of the side of the building and the latitude, longitude, we can tell the historical background of an area and use this as an educational and spiritual experience, giving a voice to something that once was.
These are the Dyckman houses in Inwood. There is a national importance to educate citizens about the spiritual geography of their city. The truth of our history is not inherently divisive, but rather how our hearts interpret the facts that we are given access to. The building of our united future will require honest masonry, eyes willing to see and hands willing to touch the bricks. This is true in the East, West, South, and in the North.
This is the side of an auto parts store in Inwood. It is also a memorial site.
Hush-a-bye, don't you cry, go to sleepy little baby. When you wake, you shall have all the pretty little horses.
The commemorative landscape of this country is more than what we can see with our eyes. It is what can be heard with the ear and felt with the heart. We tap into higher levels of empathy by using music that integrates different musical genres, religious backgrounds, and cultural backgrounds. We have a Zimbabwean lullaby. We provide an integrated national anthem, which is integrated with the national anthem, Star Spangled Banner, and the Black national anthem as well, as music that rests in the water.
We gave a presentation of the project that was sponsored by the Kentucky Arts Council and the Kentucky Historical Society. And we stressed that the project, although it appears to be an art project, is really a spirit project. The first call we received after that presentation was from Sister Eleanor Craig. Turns out that the Jesuits brought enslaved people with them when they came to Kentucky. The Sisters of Loretto will be holding a sanctification ceremony in November, bringing the project to their mother house in Springfield, Kentucky. The Dominican nuns are utilizing the project as a keynote in their 200-year celebration in 2022.
One of the fundamental ideas of this project is to bring the arts and humanities out of the museum, out of the gallery, and onto the streets where the public gathers. The role of water is key. Just as waterways were used to deliver many souls into bondage, they can now be a place of remembrance that delivers us from a past into a joined future. We would like to bring this project to the waterfronts across the country, accompanied by a soundscape of African lullaby and hymn.
When asked to create the soundscape, I contacted members of my group Virtuosity. As mentioned before, the sound consists of many styles and genres of music. With this in mind, I created an outline of the main group of pieces, and for the solo numbers, I asked each soloist to search their spirit while looking at the ancestor spirit portraits and feel how they speak to them. From that, we were able to add 6 solo songs to the soundscape that captured the humanity of those who were enslaved and tie that humanity to those who are here today. This is a spirit project, folks, and it is so important to me to search my own spirit and give those involved to search theirs.
The importance of our river system in this project is critical in understanding the reality that existed in our country during the time of slavery. These rivers were traveled and crossed. Those areas on the river banks and in the water are opportunities to introduce this project, to identify locations, to change our environment, to enhance interaction and experience, and a way to educate. The application of these ancestor spirit images requires us as designers to think about materials, how to design with a spirit present, to bring that spirit to life as it has always been there and is ever present. How one engages, sees, experiences these images in a moment of realization. These are opportunities for designers to tell a story that no one else can. It's exciting to think about how this project can be present in a natural landscape as well as in the built environment. It is just as much about what is not built as it is about what is built. So much of our history has been erased and now is coming back in these spirits. This project brings light to these stories.
Fix me for
Many people ask, what do architects do? Part of what we do is to educate our clients and communities about how the design of our built environment can positively impact our lives. The I Was Here project starts the conversation on the topic of the built environment and the role our built environment has in our history. We have developed an augmented reality experience of the ancestor spirit images and the music to allow one to reflect on what role our buildings have played in the days of slavery and post-slavery. This is our history, and we all need to experience this.
fix me, Lord. Fix me, Jesus.
I Was Here is a visual manifestation of humanity. Our very citizenship and how we share it is contingent upon our ability to see one another. It is a window of opportunity to focus on the spirit of a nation that connects us. A vision of America can be seen when children of different races play together. It is the same spirit that walked along the Trail of Tears. It is the same spirit that was sold on auction blocks. It is the same spirit that I Was Here represents when you can see yourself in your fellow citizens who may not look like you or have your past. But our citizenship, our future, is ours to share.
Bringing voice into the stadium. Sports stadiums are places where diverse cultures readily put aside differences to support a common team. Go Cubs, Our citizenship, if shared, can become a team we all support in the stadium of life. In collaboration with Ron Wilbur, I arranged a blended anthem that consists of the Star-Spangled Banner, as I mentioned before, and the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. We premiered this anthem for the first time ever this past Saturday at the Lexington Legends baseball game, and it was received with thunderous applause, tears, and a renewed sense of pride in our country. It is in these bold steps that we express our shared citizenship and reshape the commemorative landscape of America.
In architecture, there is an embodied energy in all buildings. This is the effort that has taken place to build the structure, the details, the walls, the facades, the interiors. There is a deeper story of the dynamic social reality that was taking place during the development of the United States. We look at the juxtaposition of the spirit images with the built environment. I Was Here is continuing the conversation about our nation's history, and specifically our history as represented in our built environment. Many people ask us, what do architects do? Our involvement in the I Was Here project has allowed us to define what architects do on a daily basis. We have the responsibility to know who built our buildings and to understand the dynamic reality that existed when these buildings were erected. How do we engage different corporate clients, property owners to incorporate this project? This is a backdrop of history for them to reflect on a reality that is ever present. This reshapes the American Commemorative Landscape. This is a post on a wall. This is a new physical form of social media where we can experience this all together. When our country was founded, the word house was included in our public buildings to reinforce that our country is our home. This was not and has not been the reality for a large part of our population. This is an opportunity to move the country towards being a real home, a citizenship that is shared and free of fear. Architects have the trust of property and business owners, corporate and private, to reshape the exterior and interior spaces.
Places of public service commonly have the word, as Daniel said, house added to them. Three of the most common are schoolhouse, White House, and courthouse. What is a house? And furthermore, what is a home? Our shared humanity requires that we ensure the aforementioned houses are homes to all of our citizens.
Fix me, Jesus, fix me.
Make a wish on me, America. I'm a twinkling star. You can make a wish on me, America. America, you tried to destroy the ground where I could grow and prosper and conjure on my own. I was here. Here I am out of nothing, conjured up out of nothing. I want the whole world to see. My twinkling star is shining brighter than ever. Make a wish on me, America. Protect me from the evil that tries to extinguish my light. See me shine. America, you try to destroy the very essence that makes me who I am. But here I am out of nothing. I was here. Make a wish on me, America.
The heat of a forest fire creates a condition. There are certain seeds which can only be triggered by extreme heat to break open and grow. In today's conditions, at this time in our world and in our country, I Was Here is a seed opening.
Buried in the birth of our nation is the brokenness of our citizenship. I've spent my life as an exhibition artist. I've been commissioned by captains of the industry to create. What occurred to me was, is it not truly my job to bring layered meaning into public space, to speak directly to people who would never enter a museum, a gallery, or a university? I am calling your name is a key refrain in Barry Burton's prayer, written for the project. When I saw the African mother and child appearing and disappearing in the windows, I heard my name being called. Marshall, what brought you into the project?
Well, initially, Patrick Mitchell, the photographer, he and I had stage acted and been in theater together. He was much better than I am, still is. But, you know, he said, I've got this project that I'm working on with someone and I think you might like it. And so I went to the studio, I auditioned, I was selected, and the more and more I stayed involved, the more and more I realized that, okay, it's great to start as a model, but I've got to be involved. Having had an experience as an instructional designer and, you know, knowing how adult learning carries so many communication and learning barriers with it, having to teach and discuss a topic such as enslavement, systemic racism, many of the things that we know carry a heavy weight of stress, guilt, a lot of negative emotions around them. Those are extreme barriers to learning. And so when I saw this project, I saw something, and I still do, that is beautiful. And it amplifies the very thing that we fight for instead of amplifying what we're fighting against. And that's why I had to be a part of it. And so that's my story. Daniel, I'd like to know what brought you in.
Well, how I became involved in the project was through augmented reality. I'm a partner at an architecture firm here in Lexington, Kentucky, and I had met Marjorie, I think, buying a bagel at one of our local stores, and we started talking about the project, and it keyed in. Oh, how do we put one of the Ancestor spirit images on the entire side of a skyscraper downtown Lexington? And as we started to crack that nut, so to speak, I started learning about the history of our buildings and the role that they played in the slave trade in downtown Lexington. I live downtown, I work downtown, and I walk past these buildings every day with my kids and my wife, not knowing the horrible reality that existed for so many around these sites hundreds of years ago. And as a designer of buildings and urban spaces for people to come together and enjoy life, I feel that it's crucial to unpack this reality, to take stock in the fact that the dynamic that existed during slavery and how that reality, specifically in Lexington, has directly resulted in the reality that we live in today. We are working as designers to bring people together. And this project, I saw this project as a very important step in this evolution. People seem to avoid just calling it like it is and to consciously work to improve our collective experience. And we see this regularly in Lexington, in the conscious decisions that were made to make our city cater to vehicular transportation, to expand and develop away from the downtown. Well, now as we move back downtown, we are faced with the truth of the city's history with slavery. This is why I'm so privileged to be a part of this project, and we'll continuously look for opportunities to reinforce the idea of shared citizenship and togetherness. And architecture and urban design can do this, and that's why it's really so exciting to be a part of this.
Awesome. So, Dr. Priestley, what brought you in? Not that anybody would ever doubt your passion. I know you can hear it, folks. But please share.
Well, you know, I was invited. My wife actually was introduced to I Was Here well before I was. No pun intended. And she invited me to a project that, I'm sorry, an opening, a launch in Winchester, Kentucky. And when I walked in, I saw all of these ancestor spirit portraits in the lobby. And one was right in front of me with lights that was like coming from above it. And it had words on it. And when I looked at the words, I heard music and I heard someone reciting what those words were. And as a result, I'm like, this thing needs music. It needs, like, these ancestor spirit portraits need to speak in some type of way. And that was in my mind, folks. But Miss Marjorie Guyon took it from the mind to the reality. And very similar to Daniel, I was walking down the street and I said, hey, wait a minute, aren't you Michael Priestley? Yes, I am. And so it was history. You know, the ancestor spirit portraits, all 21 of them speak for themselves. And I count it as an honor and a privilege to give them the voice, give them an additional voice, a voice of familiarity to some people, and the voice that I think, and we all think as a team, is crucial in bringing us together as a country.
Michael Bear.
Well, I guess what's funny is that as a spirit, I was a part of this project in spirit even before I knew it. And so, you know, we had been building this software for like 4 years, and we had installations all over the country. And we had worked with Mary Quinn at Visit Lex and did this cool augmented reality wayfinding tour. And we turned the Abraham Lincoln mural and he started talking to you and telling about history. And then next thing you know, Marjorie, whose name comes up in all of these conversations, is she starts talking to Mary Quinn, and Mary Quinn's like, oh my gosh, you need to talk to this guy, and it's history from there. And then you get to meet the passion, you know, obviously of Daniel and Marshall and Dr. Priestley. Marjorie is our leader here. And so, you know, all of those things together, what it invokes is, you know, even thinking of it from a technology side, it's integrations, like how do things integrate together? And what this project does is it integrates, you know, history, architecture, technology, song, and education. And when you do that, you know, it's meant to open your eyes, and it's meant for you to listen, and it's meant for you to share. And hopefully by sharing this project, the I Was Here project, everyone shares in the same passion, and everyone shares in the willingness to tell the story.
As architects and designers, many of you on this call, we can play a pivotal role in shaping a shared citizenship. This is about changing the American commemorative landscape, and that ancestor spirit images have a place in all spaces around our nation. So think of where those spirit images speak to you. Where do they pop up? We've mentioned that slavery has touched every nook and cranny of this country. Ask you to do some history, look into this, and you will see these images pop up. That's what was so amazing for me when I first started to experience this project. Think of the projects you're currently engaged in: libraries, hospitals, fast food restaurants, sports stadiums, office buildings, civic buildings. This experience is realized through physical installations, through augmented reality. We experience architecture by feeling the environment. I Was Here adds a very important layer of understanding through experience that gives us an opportunity to move forward towards the future of a shared citizenship. Communities of understanding, building cities that empower our citizenship. And if you look, you will see it.
So what you see here are sponsored logos, but what you don't see are the relationships that we've been able to develop with organizations and businesses and people who are passionately devoted to shifting the spirit in our country. I want to say here, first of all, to Mary Quinn Raymer, Visit Lex was the very first sponsor of this project, and to Cindy Dees at Wells Fargo, and Nicole Carroll, who introduced me to Codaworx, and Tony Sykes, and now the Architects Foundation. Marcy and Stephen Lewis, we are so grateful to you, and we just feel blessed to be able to work with you.
Well, Marjorie, it's definitely our pleasure. A project like this is so much larger than any of us as individuals. It has great potency when those of us who have some knowledge through our own lived experiences and our own parents, grandparents, ancestors of this path, this hundreds of years long journey that we've been on, are learning and feeling emboldened to claim that story, to claim that narrative, but in a way that elevates the whole American cultural legacy landscape. We are an inextricable part of it that has been suppressed for reasons of practicality over the centuries and is now forced its way out of the box. And this is just a way to say that it's not all about sorrow and fear of punitive damage. This is a way of elevating the stories and helping to round out our understanding of how we got to be the great nation we supposedly are and hopefully are. And that'll be determined in this next frame of our current, experience, whether we can live up to the ideals and principles that we hold up, or whether the struggle will continue. I like to say when you hook a tuna and it starts swimming toward the boat, you got to reel in as hard as you can, and you guys are about to land a big one here, so.
Well, we thank you so much, Stephen, for saying that. And, here's our contact information as well as the I Was Here website. We invite you to work with us and to help reshape the built environment of our country and of our world. But it has been a pleasure to be able to share this time. And we thank every single one of you for the expertise that will be lended to help shift the spirit of this country, because we are all in it together, and all of our expertise needs to be brought. It's all hands on deck.
I'm Amanda Malloy with the Architects Foundation. Before we go into questions, I know that some people might be hopping off, so I wanted to give a plug about the exhibition and also do our giveaway. So this event is part of our Codaworx exhibition, which will be online through September. Unfortunately, it's totally virtual this year because of the COVID pandemic. The images that you saw at the Octagon were just a mock-up, but we hope to have it in person one day, the I Was Here project. So our next event for the CODAaward exhibition will be on July 22nd, so please stay tuned for more details. And I'll also drop in ways to support the Octagon and the I Was Here project as well. And so without further ado, I'm going to be doing the giveaway, which will be for a commemorative poster. And so the winner of that is Rachel Saban. Congratulations, Rachel. The second lucky winner is Joyce Morton. Congratulations, Joyce. All right, so question time. The first question that we got is, Marshall, how can people learn about the self-paced anti-racism course that you mentioned?
Absolutely. You can go to pchatp.com. That's www.pchatp.com. And then you'll see a big red button that says Freedom from Racism.
pchatp.com.
Click that button. Sure.
Click the big red button.
It's an important button.
It's a very important button.
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to not click that red button while I'm asking more questions. So we got a question from Maps Rabel. How are the images projected or applied onto surfaces?
So I think that's probably a question for me. Unless anybody else wants.
So
what the software does is it kind of uses a series of fallbacks. So the very first fallback is what we do is we take pictures of the image that we wanted to actually display the media content on. So what we would have to do is we need to take it in different with different shadows, with sunlight at nighttime, with light shining on it, and then we upload those into the back end of our software. Our software then learns and recognizes each one of those images. Then paired with that, the secondary fallback is it uses the latitude and longitude of your device to make sure that you are the correct device, you are looking at that correct image at that point in time, then takes the media from the media library that we load into the back end, whether it's an image, whether it's song, whether it's one part of a historical tour, and then it displays and plays that image. If you are actually on a walking tour, the application will then automatically put you into the AR wayfinding mode where you just point your phone in the direction and there's a big giant bubble that you walk to, and that's the next part of the tour. But that's kind of a long story short.
I read that question in a different way. If we're applying the images to the surfaces of buildings or to metal plates, that image can actually be CNC cut out of metal. It could be protected in between two layers of glass. It could be printed on a panel that is allowed to weather a little bit. I mean, there's there's such a history tied to this project that could be exciting as well. So
and one other thing that I can say to that is we've printed the images on translucent tapestries. So for places like a rotunda, they can be suspended. They're very lightweight, and we can go up to 60 by 16 feet. So there's so many different ways, just depending on what the space looks like.
Aluminum panels, glass etchings.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, there really isn't a limit.
but that transparent quality, that rich color, the visual texture, I mean, that's where a lot you get creative.
And I like the technique of utilizing aging on surfaces, because the rust in different colors that can contrast, that's just me though.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So those are all the questions that I've gotten. Megan, are there any other questions?
Not that I can see.
Oh, if you don't mind, as a panelist, I feel that I can ask a question of the folks that are here. So my question would be, I'm just curious to know what projects, if any, that you are really passionate about in your space are you currently working on? I would love to see some of those in the chat that I can now see, so I can read whatever they say. But I would just, if there's a project that you're working on right now that you're really passionate about, I would love to see that in the chat.
Yeah, I'll chime in real quick. I'm working with the group in Anniston, Alabama on the Freedom Riders Training Institute, which is being led and guided by Charles Person, who is on the bus that made it to Birmingham that was attacked by Bull Connor's mob. And we have a physical home, a series of 3 existing buildings that have been donated to become the physical home of the Institute. And we've just been talking about, there's going to be a several-year fundraising program to get the budget together. But in the meantime, there's a front room with large windows visible from that front room interior is visible from the street. And the idea was to use that wall, the back wall of that space, to project images. So you guys, you got your hooks into me, I got my hooks into you now. So we're gonna figure this one out.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Absolutely.
Well, I'll just say this, that from the very beginning, what we've known is that it really is going to take all of us. I mean, I had the vision of the mother and the child, but of myself, I'm just a tiny little part of it. And so what we see, like whoever said it, this is an all hands on deck time in America. And it is really going to take all of us to, it's like, we have to tilt the world back on its axis. So it's a muscular job, and it's going to take everybody.
We've gotten one last question. Diane asked, do you have plans to celebrate the achievements of African Americans in the arts and sciences to follow up on this great project?
I think that's a great question. When I think about celebrating them, I think two forms of celebration. There's one where we have a ceremony. And so we have had sanctification ceremonies as a part of the opening of some of the kickoffs that we've done with this project in different places. But I think of the other form of celebration is how we make sure to incorporate different spaces and give access and give a voice to the project. You know, there's nothing better than celebrating with success, and the success in reaching people with information that they need to see, that they need to be empowered with, so that we can establish and move forward the vision of the project. You know, I think that in and of itself is a celebration.
Well said. So we've reached 1 after the hour, and I know that that's past our time. So thank you all for joining us. This was an amazing and incredible panel. This recording will be sent out to everyone who registered, so please be on the lookout for that, and have a wonderful evening.
Oh, real quick, and for those of you who did donate, we certainly appreciate it on behalf of both of our organizations. And for those who perhaps enjoyed this and haven't yet, you know what to do.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.